Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is January the 12th, 2018, week of the strong hand, not week of the weak hand, but the strong hand, but it's still a weak, but not weak hand. All right, so we've got some very special guests from all around the world here. I mean, that's why we're on at this crazy time, so they could all be here. Martin Davidson is in freaking Melbourne, Australia. We got BTC sessions in cold Calgary, Canada. And we got Renegade Investor in England. We're going to talk about the temperature in Calgary as we move on. But first, let's talk about the hot news in cryptocurrency. And that is, is all this FUD leading us into a freaking bear market? I don't think we're going into a bear market, but I'm the eternal optimist. Renegade Investor, what is going on? Are we entering a bear market? What is going on?
So yeah, the biggest question for me throughout all of 2017 was whether we were going to see a repeat of the euphoria despair market cycle that we've seen many times before in Bitcoin, or whether we're at the beginning of the early majority phase of S-curve adoption where growth is going to go exponential. And that was literally a $1 trillion question I was asking myself throughout 2017. And one thing that I've really noticed lately is that although we've had this big price increase from, almost like a 20x breakout from the highs of 2013, the actual market cap of Bitcoin is still relatively small. Like we are at like $250 billion at the moment when you take into account that there's $400 trillion globally in all other major asset classes. So as a percentage, we are still less than we're at 0.07% of all the money in the world is currently invested in Bitcoin. If in terms of adoption, we are still less than 1% in terms of adoption. And so for me, when I'm looking at the price right now, we've had this big run up, but it's everything that I do in Bitcoin, I base on probabilities. Like, what is the probability we're going to have a pullback? What is the probability we're going to consolidate? And what is the probability that we break out here and we go vertical? And so one thing I'm looking at right now is that the probability that we're going to have a euphoria despair market cycle, I'm putting as relatively low. The fact, like in the past, the reason we had such volatility in the price is because speculators were in charge of the price. So in terms of price action, there was very little grassroots adoption to offset short-term speculation. That's why when you had the rises in 2012, where you went from $30 back to $2, then you had the rise in 2013 from $266 right back to $40. And then obviously one of the biggest, which was 2013, where we went all the way up to $1,200 before pulling back to like the $160 capitulation lows in 2015. The one common factor of all of those reasons why we went from like euphoria to despair was the fact that speculators were in control of this market. But one thing that I really noticed in 2017 was that the speculators stopped having complete control over the market price, and momentum traders didn't have it their own way. And the reason for that is because we saw so much grassroots adoption from retail investors coming into the space. And some of the figures I've seen recently due to adoption really make me believe that even if we do have a pullback, it is not going to be like the previous pullbacks that were, almost 80-90% and lasted 2 years. The reason for that is that, Bitstamp came out the other day. They're adding over 100,000 new accounts a day. Not only that, but they've also got like a 2-week backlog in validating those accounts. So that's, when you think about it, that's 1.4 million people potentially waiting to be validated before they can even buy Bitcoin. And when I posted that on my Twitter account, one person actually put, I've been waiting 3 weeks. So you've got somewhere between 1.5, 2 million people potentially waiting on Bitstamp to buy Bitcoin. Then you've got Coinbase, which is also adding over 100,000 new accounts a day. And that's just 2 exchanges. Then you take into account globally how many other exchanges there are. And it's really, I think there's a lot of quantitative evidence here to make the case that we are definitely entering the early majority phase of S-curve adoption where that growth goes vertical. And if that is the case, I really don't see how short-term speculators are going to drive this price down anywhere like we've seen with the previous bear markets. Some of the main areas I'm looking for, like for those who are into trading, there's a tool called Fibonacci retracement, which a lot of traders use to calculate once you've had a big rise, how far it's going to pull back. And one of the most common areas is the 50 to 61.8% Fibonacci retracement levels. That's a lot of levels where if you've had a big rise, investors and traders will start to reaccumulate and go back into Bitcoin. If that happens, I'd expect really strong support around sort of 8,000 to 10,000. That would definitely be a buy zone for me. If you anything above that price, like this is how I would play it right now. Like I don't give financial advice, but if I was personally coming into the Bitcoin space right now, anything under 10K, I would start to look to accumulate Bitcoin. If it drops to 8K, definitely make a significant purchase. And if it's above like 10K now, if I'm just looking at some of the technicals on the chart, you know, we have a lot of buy support around the sort of 10 to 13,000 mark, and we've got a lot of resistance around 16 to 17. So as we are in that consolidation range right now, we're sort of in like an a symmetrical triangle, and also like a channel. Anywhere in between there, just scale into your purchases. So don't put everything in all at once, you know, just use it as an opportunity. It's called cost dollar averaging. Just make small purchases, but also keep some money on the sidelines in case we have that pullback, so you can maximize your Bitcoin purchases. You know, regardless of where you buy here, like in the long run, especially if lightning on the horizon, I think that this bull market has just got a long way to go. But in terms of maximizing your purchases, cost dollar average within this region, and always just keep a little bit on the sideline here. So that if we do go bear and we have that sort of maybe a 61.8% pullback to that 8,000 region, just make sure you've got some money on the sidelines that you can then go in. But in terms of the way I'm leaning right now, I still believe that there's so much grassroots adoption here that it looks like we're entering the early majority phase of S-curve, and that for me is probably leaning me more towards the bull side at the moment.
All right, Renegade Investor naming some numbers there too. All right, pound that like button, everyone, and remember to check out the notes section below. All of these guys' links are below. Martin, so do you think things are speeding up? Are more people joining, buying Bitcoin, buying cryptocurrency? Do you feel an excitement in Australia? Or do you think maybe things are going to slow down worldwide? What's your perspective?
Okay, cool. So a good indication on the ground, because you know I run the blockchain center here, which is a co-working space for myself and my team, should I say. I mean, that's a good indication in itself. It used to be just me and one other person pretty much. Now I've got a team of 9 people here running the center. This is a photo from Wednesday night. I don't know if your viewers can see that okay. But that is like our new co-working space crammed full of about 200 people. And that's every Wednesday night now. So that's just our talk and trade meetup group. A guy called Simon Harmon, he's been running that for a little while, talks about things that are happening in the industry. Loads of audience participation. People stick around after some beers. But like, I mean, yeah, it's phenomenal, the growth. And one of the corporate sponsors of the blockchain center is acx.io. A bit of a plug for them. So they're Australia's leading Bitcoin and cryptocurrency exchange. They do the most volume, and yeah, they're getting like about close to 1,000 signups every day. And there's other exchanges, BTC Markets, CoinJar, Independent Reserve, Cointree. I know that they're experiencing similar growth as well. So thousands of people a day are signing up to exchanges in Australia as well. The teams are swamped. They're hiring new support staff to do all the KYC checks, although regulation isn't come in yet. That's going to be coming in about April in Australia. So yeah, it's just, yeah, I imagine the growth is pretty similar to here as what it is in most places in the world. We're opening a blockchain center in Lithuania as well. That's happening at the end of the month on January the 27th. So that's pretty exciting. The first blockchain center will be in Europe, and we got plans to open blockchain centers in other countries as well. Serious interest. We're opening one in Perth soon, one in Sydney as well. So they're happening for sure. One in Adelaide has been earmarked as well. And Yeah, so yeah, it's all good. I mean, these little ups and downs is, if you've been in the industry for quite some time. I'm similar to yourself, Adam. I believe, like, I tend to hold Bitcoins. I've been buying Bitcoin since I found out about Bitcoin in 2013, 2014, 2015, and I've kind of been holding them. And I don't really trade so much anymore. I don't really have the time or the inclination to watch the Fibonacci retracement lines and the ups and the downs and the emotional roller coaster that you go on, and then you think, oh, maybe I should buy into this altcoin and that one, and I should have sticked with this one. And like, I like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's good. And not to say you can't make money off of the altcoins, but yeah, a lot of them are just a bit sketchy in my opinion, and they go up and down very quickly. So yeah, so it's all good, and I agree. I think that the price is going to consolidate now. That tends to be what happens in the past, and then I think there's just steady growth for the future. But yeah, only invest what you can afford to lose. It's very speculative right now, and yeah, just focus on the underlying technology, the projects that have real promise. I think that's the best bet, which is Bitcoin. I think that has the most promise, and with the layer 2 scaling solutions, kind of, I know people that are working on Lightning Network applications. So I think there's lots of good stuff happening, and these ups and downs are just part of the journey.
I've got to say, that photo that you shared was a very bullish and very impressive photo. If that's happening every week there, I mean, that's a good sign. And that's what I think. You know, when I hear these people talk about, oh, bear markets, I mean, I think about this, that you're opening a blockchain center in Adelaide. And I mean, what's that, the 5th or 6th largest city in Australia? It's not even the top 4. And you're opening something there. By the way, who in Perth are you coordinating with? Do you know the name of the person in Perth?
Absolutely. So Digital X is the name of the company. So Digital X is Australia's only stock market listed. They were doing Bitcoin mining back in the day. They were the first listed company in Australia. So ticker code is DCC. And then recently, so they were doing Bitcoin mining initially. Then they pivoted into like an air pocket app, which is like a remittance application for the US to Mexico remittance corridor there. And then more recently, they got an investment from Blockchain Global, which is also a sponsor of the Blockchain Center. And they got I think it was a $4 million investment. It was the first in the world actually in Bitcoin. The investment was done in Bitcoin because Blockchain Global are into mining and they do the exchange. And so they're the people that set up Blockchain Global are very bullish on Bitcoin and the values behind Bitcoin. Yeah, so Digital X are now using the guys that are there. They have like corporate equities background, so they're doing ICO advisory services now. So book building for these new projects. They were involved in the Power Ledger ICO, which I think they raised about 34 million, and it's like a $500 million on the exchanges there. They did Singularity.net, which is like an AI marketplace. So yeah, so over the last few months, their share price on the Australian Stock Exchange has gone from 3 cents up to, I think it's like 25 cents or more now. So that's just happened in the last couple of months. And yeah, there's similar things happening for other companies I see when they actually put the word crypto or blockchain in their name. There's a story about Kodak, I think, recently, right?
Yeah.
They had a bit of a share price bump, but Digital X, to their credit, they are actually doing stuff in the blockchain space. So yeah, so basically, as Digital X are a corporate sponsor for the Blockchain Center, and as part of that deal, that agreement, they're going to be licensing a blockchain center, and they're based over in Perth. So it's going to be hopefully the first quarter of this year, and there'll be a blockchain center in Perth, running lots of community events and having a Bitcoin full node like what we've got set up here. And you know, the mining museum, the Satoshi white paper is going to be on the walls of every blockchain center around the world. So it's really important that people, when they come to the blockchain center, they learn about, you know, Bitcoin and how it works, the consensus mechanism, mining, why it's important to the world. And And I think that's a good place for people to start.
It looks like my next trip to Australia, no matter what city I go to, I'll be able to find like a Bitcoin center. And I mean, it's very impressive. It's obviously quite vibrant. And so like, it's all very bullish. I mean, this is real life on the ground stuff on a continent far, far away from North America. And it's very impressive. BTC, Benny, it's your turn, man. You've heard some opinions on bullish versus bearish, technical versus on the ground. By the way, it's about 100-degree difference in Fahrenheit between Melbourne and Calgary. Seriously, it got to be like 100 degrees, I think, in Melbourne recently, where Martin is, and it's -7 degrees Fahrenheit where Benny is in Calgary. So take it away, -7 degrees. What do you think? Bullish, bearish? What's going on?
Well, I mean, all of the stories that we just heard were very exciting, but story of the day, KFC Canada tweeting about their Bitcoin bucket. No,
what
that's
is it?
not. that did happen, but they're tweeting up a storm, making jokes about they don't know what Bitcoin is. And anyways, I got some of that on Twitter coming to me today because I'm in Canada. But I'm going to take the on the ground approach here. So Calgary, when I first got into Bitcoin here, the meetups were very small. I tried to organize some myself early on, and this was 2014, and I'd be lucky if there was a couple people there, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 if I was super lucky. So a friend of mine today sent me a message and was like, "Hey, you going to the Bitcoin meetup?" I had to first ask which one, and then he said, "Well, it's the one with 150 people going tonight." And I was like, "Holy crap! Wow!" There's a lot of interest, and there's multiple meetups all around the city that I'm seeing. My city itself has like 40. No, not 40. No, it's closer to 30 Bitcoin ATMs in it, and they're popping up all over the place. I work at a place called Bit National, so they own a whole bunch of different Bitcoin ATMs, but it's also like an over-the-counter brokerage, so you can walk in and actually buy Bitcoin direct, sit down and price it out and everything. And so since November, like I started with them last March, and I remember sitting in the office, and there'd be the odd person wander in. Since November, it pretty much turned into like a solid, like I get in the morning, there's a lineup out the door, and it's just solid the entire day doing sales, people coming in all day. And we have to lock our doors half an hour early before we close because we don't have time to deal with all the people. Every single crypto company right now, it can't even handle the demand. Like the support tickets that we're dealing with are like, we're just barely starting to get a handle on them because we had to hire so many new people, and it's just absolute insanity. And coming back after the holidays, I thought it was going to maybe slow down a little bit. It was a little slow the first day because I don't think people realized we were open yet. And then the next day, lineups out the door. So it's been crazy, and there's a lot going on. I'm sure you guys are all the same, but constant emails, people coming out of the woodworks that you haven't talked to in years, being like, "Hey, I see you're doing this stuff. I'd like to ask you, I'd like to pick your brain." And there's just not enough hours in the day anymore. So I'm very excited with the direction things are going. Price wise, nothing surprises me anymore. So I'm not going to say one way or the other which direction we're going in the short term. But let's say, worst case scenario, we see a repeat of what 2014 was. That's just fine by me
because
I'm not looking for that short, couple week or a couple month play. I'm hodling all my Bitcoin. Like the ideal situation is that I never actually have to sell them because I'll just be able to use them, right? So yeah, no, I'm looking for. I think things will be a little bit more clear in the next couple of months. I guess kind of what direction this year is going to take, whether it's going to consolidate and then lift off soon, or whether it's just kind of hang out for a while. But there's just so much interest. The only thing that worries me right now is the irrationality with the alts, because you're seeing projects pop up that, you know, all of a sudden they've been around for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and they're in the top 10 and worth 20, 30 billion dollars. That's insane. Can you imagine if a company was founded and 4 weeks later it was worth 20 billion? Are you crazy? No. So I think that a lot of those projects will siphon into Bitcoin, or, you know, maybe if there's a few coins that people find useful for various projects. But I think that what's going to need to happen in order for that to come to fruition is we're going to have to go through a .com style bubble and crash. I think that's inevitable at some point. I think, you know, we're seeing the start of it, but right now it's nowhere near as large as the .com bubble was. So I think if and when that happens, and there is a crypto crash at some point, it's one of the greatest opportunity of our entire lives, because at that point you're looking for what's still around, because whatever survives that's the next Amazon and Google of the space, right? So that's where you really start sifting through the ashes and see what's there. I think Bitcoin will be there, but it'll be interesting to see what else is. So those are my thoughts for now.
Well, you know what, I want to say, because Renegade Investor actually wants to reply, but before he says something, you know, we've heard these very positive on the ground stories, and it's just funny that the media fixates on what government bureaucrats say in Korea rather than, you know, just asking around and seeing what's really going on the ground. Renegade, what did you have to say?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Ben and Martin said. Like, I co-host a Bristol Bitcoin meetup in the UK, so if you're in Bristol, get down to that. But last year, even up to like towards the end of 2016,
put your microphone. You put it up to your face again. You're low.
Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like even up to the end of 2016, we were having like maybe 6 people every sort of Bitcoin meetup. There were sometimes at the lows of 2015 where like 2 or 3 of us would turn up. And this year, like, I've been away, but I've been hearing reports from the meetup group, and there's literally been 40 people for every meetup group in Bristol. And Bristol isn't even like a major tech city in the UK. So literally, we've had to change venue twice in 2017, and just all the time now, just more and more people join the group. So anecdotal evidence is that grassroots isn't slowing down. And not only that, but I've just been traveling in Bali and Indonesia. And I went to Hubert, which is where Andreas Antonopoulos actually did a talk once. And I went to that Bitcoin 101 session on a Saturday morning. And literally, people couldn't even get in the door to get to the Bitcoin 101 session. So like, I was actually outside helping the people that couldn't even get into the meeting room to actually look at all the sort of presentation that was going on. So literally everywhere you go now, and you imagine this is happening globally in every city in the world. Oh my God, like, it's hard to not make the case that we are entering into the early majority here.
Yeah, again, so all 3 of the guests have very exciting on the ground stories, and people want to buy this stuff. I don't think all the on ramps are even there yet. A lot of people don't even understand how they can buy the Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency for that matter. So going back to Martin here, I want to hear, in Australia, do you get asked about altcoins, or is it just strictly?
All the time? Yeah, all the time. In fact, sometimes I've got friends that have been contacting me on Facebook that, you know, that are kind of, you know, known for a while but don't see all that often, and they're like, "Oh, you're still doing the Bitcoin thing?" And yeah, and like, "Oh, what about, you know, Monero, or what about Ripple? Ripple's been the big one lately. Actually, like I've had a lot of people ask me about Ripple lately because it's obviously there's been the news about one of the co-founders being, I think it's one of the co-founders being, you know, richest man on the planet now or something on paper. Obviously, it's all just on paper, isn't it? But like, I mean, yeah. So where do you start, right? I mean, it's like someone comes to me and says, "Oh, well, I want to buy Ripple." Okay, well, why do you want to buy Ripple? Because it's gone up. Okay, cool. Well, you know, do you know anything about the technology? What are you trying to do with it? You know, so so yeah, I just pull it back and go, okay, well, first of all, you know, maybe look at what you're trying to do. What's the objective here? You're going to need to create an account for an exchange. You're not really going to want to leave the currency on an exchange. You're going to need to educate yourself about a hardware wallet, private key security. You know, you might need to buy Bitcoin because not all exchanges will accept Ripple. And obviously, people on this panel, I don't want to bore everyone because we've all had these conversations before. So, but yeah, quite often it is the case because a lot of these technologies are being marketed to different demographics as well, right? So, I mean, I found out about Bitcoin. And I really like the values and the opportunity, what it could do for the world potentially, you know, and sovereignty over your own money, sound money, etc., etc. Whereas a lot of these technologies, you know, I'm not interested in them whatsoever at all. So I'm not really going to buy them because they're just not interesting to me. And that's not to say that maybe Ripple will one day replace the SWIFT system or ACH, but from what I understand about it, it doesn't really look like there's much sort of underlying technology there at all with their unique nodes list. And anyway, anyone can research and find out information about how good the technology is. But obviously, some people seem to like it. But yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, some of the valuations that are being put on these companies, really, when they don't even have any users, they don't have any customers, they don't have any revenue. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Yeah,
it's like the .com again. And by the way, Martin, you were very polite in your description of Ripple. Up here in North America, people have stated it a lot differently. It's been quite controversial up here, to say the least. I am not a big fan, so I give you credit for being a gentleman in the way you described the Ripple situation. And I want to point out with BTC, Benny, I really like how you said that if there is a big crash, if we do have a .com style crash, that from the ashes, that yeah, we'll know who's going to be the Amazon and the eBay of cryptocurrency. And that was a pretty good comparison. And that shows you, even if something brutal does happen, well, at the end of the day, the gems will be revealed. And I think Andy Hoffman will like that point too. Shout outs to Andy Hoffman. Pound that like button. But it's keeping on you here, Benny. What about this Korean FUD? What was your thing? Did it feel like deja vu all over again? Or,
it's Korea now. I thought
Yeah.
was it China? I don't. Yeah, it's like the movie Groundhog Day. It's the same thing keeps happening again and again and again. It's the same with the flippening FUD. How many times now we've seen Ethereum, then Bcash, then Ripple. It's the exact same story every time. They'll maybe get like half the market cap of Bitcoin and then it gets pulled back, right? So it's the same stuff, but you know, are they going to ban it? Are they shutting down exchanges? And then the next day it's like, well, no, we're not. But, you know, we're looking at things so that they can kind of keep it going. It's completely inconsequential, realistically. Like and not only that, if it's more difficult to attain for people, the price goes up, right? If somebody wants something and they can't get it, they're willing to pay more to get it, right? Like if I couldn't find Bitcoin anywhere, like if I couldn't, you know, walk over to a Bitcoin ATM, go down to the office, if I couldn't, you know, go on an exchange, then I'm willing to go and meet somebody on local Bitcoins and pay a premium, right? Like that's the thing. And okay, sure, yeah, maybe in the future, you know what, we're going to see way more FUD out of South Korea. Now that it's started, it's going to continue, and when it's not South Korea, it's going to be somewhere else, right? We saw lots with Russia, we saw lots with all over the place, and it's going to be a rotating door of what country is next to scare everybody into selling, basically scaring the weak hands into selling their Bitcoin. So I don't pay too much attention to it. When I saw it, I said, whatever. And then the next day I saw that it wasn't true, and I had the same reaction, whatever. So I'm not particularly concerned about it. I think it's a non-issue, a non-story. Yeah, I could really care less.
Yeah, we share a similar opinion, and I think a renegade investor. We were talking about this off air. What's your take on this? And what FUD is next? Do you have a prediction on what the next rumor is going to be? So take it away on your thoughts on the present FUD in Korea, China, etc.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, I've lived through so much of this now. So first of all, we had it with Russia. I think that was like 2013, 2014, where like either their central bank or people in the Ministry of Finance there were always on the verge of banning cryptocurrency. Then 2 weeks later, it's like, we're not banning it. Then we're banning it again. And then again, like, I think that the Chinese FUD was used to cap the market in 2013 and 26, the beginning of 2017, I think, where you had, end of 2013, that was literally what ended the bull run, was like Chinese saying that financial institutions, everyone thought it was a outright Chinese ban on Bitcoin. Turns out that China was only banning financial institutions from working with Bitcoin companies. So the fact that that was misinterpreted caused the humongous pullback in Bitcoin from the high of $1,000 back to 500. And then we saw it again at the beginning of last year when we breached all-time highs again. PBOC came out talking about how they're going to clamp down on all the exchanges. And again, it pulled back the price from those highs, and everyone thought we were going to pull back. And luckily, the reason why we didn't pull back as much that time is something that I call the half-life of FUD. So the more and more you repeat all this FUD, the less powerful it becomes. So over time, they keep on repeating it. No one cares anymore. It just becomes noise in the background. And so, yeah, that's what I want to say to people is a lot of this stuff is noise. You have to remember, like, your underlying belief of Bitcoin, or what you need to understand about Bitcoin is more powerful than any individual, group, corporation, bank, or government on the face of the planet. There is no entity out there that is bigger than Bitcoin. Jamie Dimon learned that this week when he had to pedal back on calling Bitcoin a fraud, because he learned the hard way that he is not bigger than Bitcoin. Nobody on Wall Street is bigger than Bitcoin. The entirety of Wall Street, City of London, and Frankfurt in Germany are not bigger than Bitcoin. Everyone is beginning to learn. And this is what I said at the beginning of 2017, is that that was the year of capitulation to Bitcoin. Everybody is capitulating to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the alpha network currency in the world. Everything is capitulating to it because it's just so powerful. You got 7 continents of people working on this open source project to decentralize the existing legacy system, and there is no way they can shut it down. Like, that's the one thing I will say about all this FUD. You can, like, the officials can try to slow down Bitcoin, but they cannot stop Bitcoin. They can try and slow it down. And this is the dichotomy that governments find themselves in now, is that there's 3 main problems they have with Bitcoin. And this is why they keep flip-flopping, because they do not know what to do. They are an absolute dichotomy of how to approach this. Because on one hand, if they try to regulate Bitcoin, like, it takes ages for them to draft legislation anyway. That's one of the things that came out from the South Korean news yesterday, was that they were only planning to clamp down on cryptocurrency exchanges in the country that weren't compliant with existing regulations. So that, for one, was the first point. And it can take them literally years to put through this legislation. By the time they put it through, sometimes it's out of date anyway. And I think there was one case where legislation was put through in one country. I can't remember the individual details, but all the companies that were going to be regulated on this regulation literally just changed the definition or the terminology of blockchain in their documentation, and then all the legislation was like obsolete. So that's the first problem they face. The second is that regulatory arbitrage is the biggest defense that Bitcoin has. So any country that comes down on Bitcoin, all the entrepreneurship and all the people who really want to work with Bitcoin can leave that country and go to the next country that offers the most preferential environment for them to set up business. So regulatory arbitrage is literally one of the best defense that Bitcoin has against any draconian regulation from a nation state. And the fact that there's 200 sovereign states that can adopt Bitcoin is one of those biggest reasons. And again, this is the next problem that the nation state has. And this is why, again, they're in such a dichotomy of what to do with Bitcoin, is that if they clamp down and really try to suffocate decentralized bridge services in Bitcoin using heavy regulation, draconian sort of regulations to try and restrict people's freedom, then all it's going to do is incentivize the free market to speed up the production of decentralized services. That means we don't even have to use the centralized services. So things like decentralized exchanges, decentralized wallets, which we already have to some degree, but every single service in the world would just become more and more decentralized the more that decentralized bridge services get clamped down on by central authorities. So they're fighting a losing battle. And I think, like I said, 2018 is going to be a continuation of everybody capitulating to Bitcoin because there is no way around it for them. And for me, it's like karma for the politicians and the bankers, because after 2008, they completely disrespected, the politicians disrespected the rule of law. They didn't implement, there was a two-tier justice system, which, and when you think about it, the rule of law, they didn't arrest any bankers, and the rule of law is a cornerstone of democracy. So the fact that these politicians are just tied in a knot now is just the universe saying, you messed up. Bitcoin is here to take over and resolve all these problems that you just sat on your ass after 2008 and didn't do anything about. And the same for the bankers, people like Jamie Dimon, like they're learning the hard way that, if you're going to screw everyone over, commit loads of fraud during 2008, then turn around, pay yourself bonuses out of taxpayer money, then something is going to come along and disrupt you. But yeah, like I said, all of this stuff, you got to remember deep down that Bitcoin is bigger than any individual group, corporate, whatever. It is bigger than them. And that is my underlying belief. And that is why I've never sold on all this FUD news.
The half-life of FUD terminology, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm going to have to incorporate that into my sayings there. That is a really good one, and it's really true. The FUD from long ago used to be a lot more powerful and used to last a lot longer, and now it's just its life cycle is short, which is great. So, Martin, down in Australia, when the price was dropping like $2,500 in a day. Did people know it was all because of this Korea stuff? And do you anticipate your government will one day make insane proclamations like Korea and then walk them back? Or is Australia a little bit, is that government entity a little bit smarter than the Koreans?
Well, obviously living in Australia and running a not-for-profit and sort of being part of society, I think Australian government is awesome. I love living here. So I mean, they tend to be very risk averse and pragmatic when it comes to looking at regulation. There was sort of pushback within the community for a while now around the double GST of Bitcoin. So basically, Bitcoin at the moment is taxed as a kind of a barter transaction or an intangible asset every time. If you want to accept Bitcoin for a good or service, then you have to pay GST, which is good services tax, so 10%. The good services tax that you'll charge on the product that you're selling. So it's kind of like a double GST. So it's not treated as a currency; it's treated as this barter transaction, which obviously slows down any retail adoption because no one's going to want to have to charge 10% on top of what they charge everyone else. So however, they are mending that now, and it is going to be treated as a currency. There is regulations that's come, so I think they've scrapped that double GST now, and there's going to be regulations that are coming in around the exchanges. So the fact that they've been quite public about that would lead you to think that there's not going to be any sort of like shutdown of exchanges. The fact that they're working with industry and looking to create the right regulatory framework. which I mean, yeah, I mean, I sit on both two sides really with regards to the regulation, because you can't really regulate Bitcoin, right? How can you regulate the Bitcoin? You can't. The code is the regulation, the mining, the infrastructure, the ecosystem is the regulation. But there's consumer protections that if people want to use it, then how do they use it safely? So how they transfer their Australian dollars into Bitcoin, that's a space where obviously decentralized exchanges, that's the future. I hope they're a little bit clunky to use right now, I'd say, not really fit for most people, but yeah, I think as was said before, I think it's just a case of the technology will always find a way. If people see that it has value and they want to use it, then regardless of what regulation comes in, new technology will be developed, and the regulatory arbitrage point is a perfect example of that. So if governments sort of clamp down too heavily, then businesses will just move to another more friendly jurisdiction, right? So, but I mean, there does seem to be a positive climate here in Australia, and there was the Friends of Blockchain sort of parliament. So we were invited to go up to Parliament in Canberra. First time I'd ever be there. That was quite nice. This Senator Sam Dastyari, Jane Hume, along with ADCA, which is Australian Digital Commerce Association, put together this sort of forum group to engage with industry. So I mean, yeah, whether it's just all rhetoric and whether the regulation that comes out eventually is really draconian, for now it would appear that the regulators, policymakers, local industry are working closely together to try to kind of put something out there that doesn't inhibit the growth of the ecosystem. So I think it's positive here in Australia.
I think even if Australia did come out with some draconian pronouncement, I think there would not be the same reaction. Well, first of all, the Korean market is tremendous, but also there's no language barrier. Like part of when Korea sends out something, or when China sends out these messages, it's totally misinterpreted by the rest of the world, because they don't know they don't understand the language. It's lost in translation. I'm just thinking about that right now. So I don't think Australia could even cause this type of FUD if they wanted to, but they won't. They don't want to, and for now at least. And they are getting rid of the double taxation. One last question that I thought of when you mentioned transactions. What's this? I know a guy in Perth who is a Bcash fan. He's a Bcash fan, and he's a nice guy. What's the story from your perspective? Do you have people asking you about Bcash in the Bcash versus Bitcoin? I wouldn't say it's a battle, but the attempt by Bcash to perhaps claim the name Bitcoin.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it can be confusing for people. I've had people approach me recently about, look at Bitcoin Cash, Bcash, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like it does get confusing. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that, really. I mean, I think of it as an altcoin. Yeah. I think all of them have their merits, because they're places where people can experiment and their communities develop around them. And I think.
But you haven't been in Australia. There isn't you haven't been. No one's targeted you guys or anything. There's not big controversy right now between the two parties. I mean, you don't have a lot of people saying, "Oh, is this?" I mean. There've been some battles up here, to say the least. There's a lot of drama. Is there much drama between the two down there?
No, I mean, I think it's really important that with regards to the community meetup groups and just in general how we interact with each other, whether that be online or in person, that there's like mutual respect from the start, and then it's about sort of proving the valid points and just talking it through and letting people sort of go with what that suits them, that fits with them, and then an educated community or an educated market will decide which projects or coins, currencies have the most value, and those will be the ones that sustain themselves and that live on, right? Like what we were talking about before, the potential for this to be likened to a dot-com bubble. Well, you know, after the dot-com bubble, there were some companies that carried on and that have been super successful, but the vast majority weren't very good projects, and you know, they went bust. So probably something similar might happen with the cryptocurrencies as well. You know, the ones that have utility and the ones that have a strong community will live on. So right now, you could probably just pick any of the altcoins and put them on a board and throw a dart randomly and pick one, and it goes up 100 times. You know, it's kind of there's not really a lot of science to this, other than just probably professional traders just picking a coin and buying it and then going on to the next one. And the danger is you have people that are signing up to Poloniex, Bittrex, or trying to. They can't sign up instantly, and they're just buying these. They're kind of like penny stocks, and invariably, because most people aren't professional traders, they're going to get burnt. But maybe that needs to happen for the ecosystem to mature and for people to be educated to make better decisions. So yeah.
All right. Well, now Ben actually has something to say about Bcash, but before he says anything, I want to thank Technium Unlimited over in the super chat. He says, please use Dex, Crypto Bridge, and check out Ignition IC. And he sent $50 to say that. So thank you for the $50 super chat. Anyone else over there, be my guest, send it out. We'll answer your question. We're running toward the end of the show right now, but we got a little bit of time left. Benny, what do you have to say about Bcash? I mean, there was a pump right before the Korean FUD, and now it's forgotten, which is very interesting.
Yeah, to me, everything with the whole Bcash thing, it seems to be a little bit just kind of, yeah, they have their pumps and everything, but it seems to be fizzling out. Other than, you know, like as far as this is Bitcoin's replacement, I don't see much of that. So the last major pump when Bitcoin had its huge drop down before the new all-time highs, there was a lot of people coming into the office wanting to buy Bitcoin Cash, mostly like brand new Bitcoin users, saying that this is the next Bitcoin, and they were buying into, you know, right before the major South Korean pump where it went to 2,500 and then got cut in half. Mostly just people running in the door, chasing the price, right? And so, you know, not with too much technical knowledge about how things work and the different approaches to scaling of either project, but mostly just chasing the price. Since it you know, it hit that number 2 spot and then dropped to number 3 and now number 4 again on CoinMarketCap. Now the only time, it's very, very seldom that anybody's coming into the office asking about buying Bcash anymore. Maybe once a week I'll see somebody, but mostly what gets brought up regarding Bcash in the office is if somebody downloads the bitcoin.com wallet and they've mistakenly hit receive and don't realize that it defaults to a Bcash receiving address, and then we have to help them figure out how to retrieve their funds. So that's pretty much the most of the encounter. Like obviously, if I put something funny up on Twitter regarding Bcash, then I get attacked by, you know, a ton of trolls. But that's okay, because I'm trolling when I post something like that, anyways. But you know, that's pretty much what I'm like working in the space. That's mostly what I'm seeing. I saw people chasing the price, but those same people were coming back buying Ripple because that was going to replace Bitcoin, right? So it seems to mostly just be you know, other than the people that really, really love the approach of Bcash, it's mostly bandwagon jumpers trying to catch the next big thing. But most of those people get wrecked. So, you know, like I don't think that it has the sway that it used to, or at least it's not the threat that people perceived it as. I think it has a community that will continue rallying around it, because a lot of those people are very passionate, to put it lightly. But like when you value it in Bitcoin, when you look at the how much Bitcoin do I have to spend to get one Bcash, it hasn't really hit those new all-time highs in quite some time. So I don't perceive it as much of a threat. They're happy to have their own project, and I'm happy for them to have it. But yeah, I don't see much of an issue with it anymore.
Well, yes, I only bring it up because it did have that pump earlier in the week, and that was newsworthy. It got up to 20. We were talking about everything being cyclical. That with China FUD is recycled as the Korean FUD. There's going to be a flippening. Well, the other thing that's quite cyclical is that Bcash seems like it's dead, but it returns to 20% again and then comes back down. It just we're going to have to get used to it. It will be repumped and repumped and repumped, and that's just it. And good luck to everyone involved in whatever coin you're involved in. For me, Bitcoin is the one. Buy and hold Bitcoin. I wanted to remind everyone I am in Los Angeles right now, and tomorrow in Century City is the meetup, or today, Friday, is the meetup in Century City at 6 p.m. I will be there. I will speak there. Anders is the main speaker there. He puts it on. It's 6 p.m. in Century City. Link is below. Also linked to below is I'm speaking at an event in San Francisco, World Crypto Economic Forum on Monday. And that event is on Monday and Tuesday in San Francisco. Check out the links below if you're in the area. And if you're in Los Angeles, I can hang out on Sunday also. Friday and Sunday are my hangout days. Adam@tresorhelp.com. And the guy who did the super chat reminds me that DEX, that's a decentralized exchange. Yes, when he said DEX. So use decentralized exchanges, although there are really very, very few of them right now. All right, let's go to everybody's things that were left out, things you want to add, stories you want to say, comments you want to make on other people's commentary. Let us start with a renegade investor. What have you heard that you want to add to? Anything you have? Anything. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so there's two things that I'd like to talk about. Definitely altcoins and Bcash, and altcoins because I've helped set so many people up in Bitcoin. Get set up in wallet exchange, things like that. And the one thing that happens every single time is literally these are people that are brand new to the crypto space, never invested or traded in their life. And 1 or 2 weeks after I set them up in Bitcoin, they come to me and go, what do you think about this coin, that coin? Is this going to be big? Should I put money into this? And the one thing I want to say to people is you got to be really careful with altcoins. I didn't give financial advice, okay? But this is how I would approach it. Ultimately, you want to have the first thing to understand about the altcoin market is that it's cyclical. It's not a case of invest and forget, okay? And the reason for that is because not only do you have the risk of the USD price fluctuating, but you also have to price altcoins against the Bitcoin price. So, just because something goes up in USD value, the fact that you converted your Bitcoin to buy it doesn't mean that you're going to be in profit, because the Bitcoin price against that alt could have actually gone down. So it's first important to take into account that the altcoin market is cyclical. It seems at the moment that it pumps at the beginning of every year, because at the beginning of 2017, we saw the same, just a big altcoin rally. And we're seeing the same this year. And I actually predicted this back in November when I did a talk with Andy Hoffman and said that 2018 was going to be the beginning of this altcoin cycle. And the reason for that is because I saw that all the altcoins priced against Bitcoin were at the bottom of their range. So they were all bottoming out into a period of accumulation. And this is one of the best tactics I will give to people, okay? If you've seen a altcoin market that has gone skyrocketing, it's not a good time to get in. What you want to look for is a constant downtrend. And once you get to the bottom of that downtrend, you have a period of accumulation where the market goes flat. That's the perfect time to start accumulating a position in an altcoin. And definitely when you have a breakout of that channel, the initial breakout, that is a really good time that we're going to have, or a really good indicator that we're going to have a reversal in the altcoin market. One thing I will say to people is you shouldn't be using, in my opinion, again, I don't give financial advice, but if you're new to these markets, you don't want to be using more than 5 to 10% of your portfolio in altcoins. You want to have a core position in Bitcoin, which is 90 to 95%, because Bitcoin is the king of crypto. And there's nothing at the moment, in my opinion, that is going to be threatening that position anytime soon. So you want to use maybe 5-10%. And also, when you're moving into an altcoin, like one of the mistakes I made when I first got into altcoin investing or trading is that I would just chuck everything in at once into one position I wanted to be in. But over time, I've learned that scaling in is a good way of reducing risk. You know, maybe put in 25% of the position you want to put in. If you get a confirmation that the trend goes the right way, put in another 25%. So you're not chucking all your risk in at one time and risking that the market is going to dump on you. And also, like, as the price goes up, if you're up 500% on a position, just take some profit off the table. Like, so many people get greedy, you know, like they want 10x or something. Like, you know, if you're up 500%, again, scale out of the position on the way up. That way, if you get a big reversal, you've already taken profit off the table. But one thing I'll also say to people is, you know, I actually got a text off a friend this week, and he said, this is someone I set up recently, and he said, you know, I've just bought some Ripple because I noticed that the price was cheap and I could buy more coins. But the thing I want to say to people is, just because a coin is cheap, it doesn't mean that it's relatively cheap. You know, you've got to look at how many coins are issued, how many coins are circulating, how many coins are going to be in total, how many are actually held by the founders, how many are pre-mined. Because if you looked at the adjusted circulation price of Ripple in particular against Bitcoin, like, it recently hit $14,000 per coin. So just because it was cheap, it just means that there's more coins in circulation, you know, and like it has a higher inflation rate. So you have to take all of these things into account. Just because you log into CoinMarketCap and you see coins that are $1, it doesn't mean that that $1 is then going to turn into a $15,000 market like Bitcoin. Like, that's a mistake I made as well when I first moved into this altcoin market in 2013, and when I first started investing in alts. But yeah, just those are some of the best tips I can give to people. You know, just be really sensible with the risk, because there are people that have been trading these altcoin markets for 5 years, day in, day out. And if you go up against them when you haven't even traded in your life and you're really new to these markets, then you're going to be holding their bags on the way down. Like, that's mostly what is going to happen. And like, one thing I'll say as well, if you're going in with size, like, spread your risk across multiple exchanges. You got like Binance, Poloniex, Bittrex. Don't have all your trading account on one exchange, because if that exchange goes down, you want to be able to decentralize that risk and have it on multiple exchanges. And then another good way of playing these markets is to compound profits. So if you've taken profit from an altcoin, you can then say it's up 500%, just roll it into another altcoin that is at the bottom of its range, you know, just coming out of that accumulation stage. So that's a way of then taking risk off the table and then potentially compounding those gains. But the one thing that I really want to say to people who are in altcoins, you have to remember that the name of the game in altcoins is to accumulate more Bitcoin. 99.9% of these altcoins are going to go into the history bins once Lightning gets Bitcoin gets Lightning, and this market matures. We're going to have that .com, I think, blow off top, where 90% of the .com companies went to nothing. And I really think the same thing is going to happen, because long term they don't offer any value proposition above and beyond Bitcoin. So that's the one thing it's really important to understand, is that the majority of the big players in the altcoin space are doing it purely to increase their Bitcoin bags. And one thing I just want to mention, if I've got time, just on Bcash, is that there's a brilliant article that just came out by this guy called Melik Manukian. I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. It's quite a difficult one, but it says, the title of it is Lightning Network Enables Unicast Transactions in Bitcoin Lightning is Bitcoin's TCP IP stack. I've got it on my Twitter account right now, so if you go to about the fourth tweet down, but it basically makes the case. This guy's a network engineer, and he says that if you're like Bcash is trying to scale, you know, to maybe like Visa, like on chain, it is literally going to be physically impossible with current technology, due to the fact that every single transaction has to be broadcast, as opposed to having peer-to-peer transactions, which a Lightning Network channel or payment channel will give you. And it really, really hit it home to me just how the Lightning Network is going to be, I think, the ultimate way to scale the Bitcoin network. And I really think, for me, it's drawn a line under just why Bitcoin is still just untouchable in terms of Bcash versus Bitcoin. And you also have to take into account that with Bcash, you got centralized risk, it's sensible, and it just really doesn't have the security of Bitcoin. And it definitely doesn't have the management team of Bitcoin Core, which are literally made of the best developers in the world. So for me, I'm not really concerned about Bitcoin and Bcash anymore. I really think Bitcoin is still the king of crypto, and I'm open to it. I'm up for the free market, but at the same time, I really don't like the fact that Bcash has come in here and tried to plagiarize the brand of Bitcoin without doing all the hard work that has gone into Bitcoin from Bitcoin Core over 8 years.
Well, let me say this: value your wealth in Bitcoin. Buy and hold Bitcoin, people. Pound that like button. Thank you for all that information. And I will find that link and I will link to it below. All of their links are below, including Renegade Investors Twitter. So you can check it out too and find the link right now that he's talking about. And that was very interesting. Let's move on to Martin. I hope there are a lot of people from Australia watching right now. This is a very convenient time for you guys. You're about to eat dinner on Friday evening. So Martin, any final thoughts, any Australian news you wanted to share with the people in Australia out there or the people of the world? You've got a very unique perspective. We don't get to hear about it very much here in North America. So take it away. Anything you want to say?
Sure. So we're wrapping up now, are we? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, yeah, that's it's been a real privilege to be on the show, and thanks very much, Adam, for all the work that you keep doing, because the proponents of this centre is all about education, the co-working, the community events. It all starts with education. So the more people that these shows find and like listening to like educated, experienced views, then the less people are going to get burnt and they know what this industry is all about. So yeah, I kind of we've got a couple of really exciting new programs coming up. We've got the Australia's first blockchain incubator program, which is going to be kicking off next month. So open applications are open for that at the moment. We've got a team of about 50 mentors from different backgrounds, blockchain, Bitcoin developers, professional service advisors. So it's going to be like a beta style, community style project. It's not going to be a commercial or equity style incubator program. It's the first time that we're doing it, but the community have given us really good response about it. So we're looking forward to running Australia's first blockchain incubator program. It's called Block Engine. So that's the name of the program, Block Engine. And then next month, we're going to be kicking off Australia's also first 70-hour, 6-week blockchain developers course. So if you're a developer, you've got basic programming skills and you want to get into this industry, obviously it's a booming industry and there's lots of companies crying out for developer talent, and there's really not a lot of blockchain developers, Bitcoin, Ethereum developers. Pick your coin that you most want to develop on. So yeah, it's a real opportunity to get the skills, do the course, and then we have networks with recruitment consultants as well, and companies that can help you actually find a role as well. So if you're in Australia and you're in Melbourne, then please sort of check out our blockchain incubator program. But all of the programs that we run here at the Blockchain Centre are actually going to be going out to all of the other global blockchain centres as well. So everything we do here, you'll be able to do at the local blockchain centre. So the idea is to set up blockchain centres, 20 new centres around the world by the end of 2018. That's the mission. So hopefully blockchain centres will be coming to a country near you, and you can learn the skills to become a Bitcoin developer, minded people, join the community groups, and have somewhere to start your business. So if you go to our website, it's blockchaincentre.com.au. Also, we've been doing some events on Facebook Live. So if you go to Facebook Blockchain Centre, and we've got quite a big following on Twitter now, which is Blockchain CTR. So yeah, please check us out and follow us and come by the centre. And yeah, good luck to you all. And we made these up a couple of years ago. We've been sending them around the world to people in the prominent in the space. So guys, let me get your mailing addresses off you so I can send you a Bob Bitcoin. He was born in a Bitcoin mine in Australia, and so yeah, make sure you send me your addresses and I'll send you out a Bob Bitcoin. Okay.
Okay, that's awesome, man. I like T-shirts, but I like little. That's cool too, man. That's cool too. So, and thank you for the unique Australian perspective. And it's just the education that you guys are doing down there. You got it going on with these blockchain centers. It's a good thing, and I'm glad you're spreading them all over the world. It's a great contribution originating in Australia. BTC Benny, we're going to let you have the final words here. What did we forget? What do you want to say? I mean, you deserve the final word. You're suffering through the -7-degree weather of Calgary.
It's so cold here, man. I got to scrape my windshield on the car every morning. It's awful. But I'd like to mirror some of the stuff that Renegade was talking about here, mostly in regards to I guess the craziness of the altcoin markets, and a lot of new people getting involved in cryptocurrency. So I would say the number one thing, the most valuable thing in cryptocurrency is education. If you don't understand why cryptocurrency in general, why the cryptocurrency you're holding would be valuable, or the technology behind it, then you are going to be irrational as the price bounces around. So number one thing, take some time and understand the first cryptocurrency out there. Understand Bitcoin. Why was it valuable in the first place? Why do people still find it valuable? Why is it still in the number one spot? Understand Bitcoin, then apply those metrics to other currencies, and then make that call. The other thing, we were talking about coinmarketcap.com, which is one of the sites you can go to see kind of a ranking of cryptocurrencies where they're at. So a lot of people go there and they just look at the price and they just look at the name of the coin and that's it. But there's other metrics there, and you need to pay attention to those. In particular, you should be moseying on over to the column that says circulating supply, because right there you can see how many are out there. And curiously, there's a number of them now in the top 10 that beside the circulating supply, there's a little asterisk, and you need to ask yourself why. So for instance, you look at Ripple and it says there's just shy of 39 billion of them, but there's an asterisk. So you click on Ripple and you go, well, what's going on here? Well, actually there's 100 billion, but 60 billion are held by Ripple Labs. And, you know, in other cases, you can't mine it, or there was a major pre-mine. So the people that created the coin mined and didn't let anybody else mine for a period of time to accumulate some themselves, and then opened up mining to other people. So you need to pay attention to those metrics because that can very much impact the potential value of the coin down the line. Don't look at a coin that's 30 cents and say, well, one day it could go to the same price as Bitcoin, because odds are there's like 100 billion of them on the market. So you need to pay attention to all the metrics, and as well as understanding the technology, unless you're just rolling the dice. And who knows, you might still make money doing that in this market anyways. But yeah, I do want to say education is key, and the more time you can spend educating yourself, the better. And I think I'll just close with that.
Very good point to end on, with education. And I have this feeling that you're going to be involved in like some really cool education projects soon. I've just got this feeling, dude. And I think I'll be involved. I'll be involved in some too. I made allusions to it in the past. Anyway, so everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show. We do this every Friday. It's This Week in Bitcoin. Of course, on this channel, I post a news show every day, the One Bitcoin Show, or at least one news show a day. So thank you, guests from all around the world, for making it out here. Some of you are up really late, some of you are up really early, and some of you are up at just the right time. So thanks a lot. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, check out the notes section below, pound that like button. I will see you guys later. Talk to you in the chat. Bye-bye.